Welcome back. Steve Harvey on the road. It's March 19th, Friday. Sunny out, but rather chilly. So back on the indoor bike. March Madness is on. Virginia Tech 52, Florida 49 right at the moment. So we're going to Ohio State's a little bit later. So today, awkward day in that I'm going to talk about me, which is something I really don't do. And also, not used to being the center of these videos. My career was always telling stories about others. Basically, just to get an idea, show you a little background. Graduated from Little High School Triway in middle of Ohio. Actually, I didn't really graduate. 1.8 GPA. And it was more of a deal. If I promised never to come back, they'd let me go. It was kind of like that for high school. Okay. Graduated Kent State University in 1978. Went to a little town in Farrell, Pennsylvania right after. Worked basically a converted pool hall in television, creating a newscast for a year. Then to Youngstown, Ohio. Then to Dayton, Ohio, for a television news startup for the NBC. And from a magazine or a yearbook. That's me taking pictures at a soccer game for Channel 22. It's a TK76, weighed about 25, 30 pounds. It's like carrying a Chevy Impala, for crying out loud. Then the videotape recorder was again maybe another, I don't know, 25, 30 pounds. So a lot of gear at that time, back then. After that, went to WBNS TV, Channel 10, Columbus, Ohio. Stayed there 31 years. No matter how much they tried to get rid of me, I was still there. But this was the the mic flag that we used towards the end of the years. This covered the viewfinder. I had a couple roses I put on there from covering the Rose Bowl, and a badge that's kind of worn out from the Boston Marathon, and a couple others. The BCS Tortillos Championships, National Championships, January 8th, 2007. Down to cover that. Wore a lot of hats back then. Literally hats. There's Channel 10, we called it the Tylenol, the red logo. Used the hats a lot because they covered the viewfinders to keep the sun out. Got this one, USS John Young. Frigate, destroyer maybe, Navy ship that we landed on the stern, on a helicopter, landed on the stern when Jerry Revish and I went over there, Persian Gulf. We did a series called The Tip of the Spear in the mid-90s. Tell you about that in a little bit. But landed on an aircraft carrier, USS George Washington. That was an experience and a half. But so this is Trip of the President, Cincinnati, Ohio, 1990. Trip of the President, Columbus, Ohio, February something or other. This is the Rose Bowl pass, Arizona State, Joe Germain. This is before they had a lot of security. So Arizona State was ahead, a minute or so left, so I kind of snuck into the stadium. Wasn't really allowed to because it was a ABC game. Got into the stands, ironically ended up right in the middle of the Ohio State stands with less than a minute to go. Joe Germain threw a touchdown pass to David Boston to win the game, and let's say it was rather exciting at that moment in those stands. Interesting story in a local paper. That's me taking a picture of a young girl. She is, it's an invention convention, and her invention is a doorknob that basically, when you show up, if nobody's there, will leave an answering machine. You can put an answer on it. This is 1998. Imagine with all the cameras on porches now that we have. A lot different. Very early at WBNS TV. Old Ikegami 77. God, that thing was heavy. Nice camera. Heavy. Ohio State Fair. Everything always went wrong at the Ohio State Fair, but this is me shooting Dom Taberi there on the left holding the microphone, who's now still a sports anchor at Channel 10. This is Demolition Derby at the Ohio State Fair. Another view, same thing. And I can't remember exactly where this was, but some convention. You can see cameras were not always used to put on your shoulder. This is up above, hang on the top, so getting a better view. This is me hanging out with Skybeam. Early on when satellite trucks were invented, we bought one Skybeam. We traveled everywhere with it. The people at 10 were brilliant on how they use this thing. We went everywhere with it. And it's just me hanging out there. Now, those things, $500,000 trucks are obsolete because do everything on your cell phone, you know. And recognize the guy there, 1982. Yeah, got a personal interview with Mr. Jimmy Carter. Class act. Whether you liked him as president or not, doesn't matter, but still a class act, and still does a lot with humanities, you know, Habitat for Humanity. So, one thing I need to add was this. This is one of 4 that I have, 4 Emmys. This one is for that series, The Tip of the Spear, of landing on the aircraft carrier George Washington. We did a half-hour documentary. We were also live off the carrier, which was a very interesting trick with the technology back then, because you just didn't use your phone. You had to use the carrier's satellite system back to the Pentagon and then back to Columbus. And the Pentagon and White House watched it. And the way it was told to me was that when they saw it, they decided to allow troops or the media to embed with U.S. troops in the second Gulf War. The first one they did not. American media embedded with foreign outfits, foreign units. But in the second one, American media embedded with American infantry and other units. And that's why they did it, because of the half-hour special we did on the carrier and in the city of Bahrain and a few other things. And I tell you, if you ever worry about the military, yeah, they have problems and everything else, but the people there are amazing, and their commitment is very strong. So never doubt the people, doubt the politics and some of the equipment they buy and why they buy it, but don't doubt the people. Anything else? So, a little bit about me. Athletically, you know, I'm not a stud athlete by any means, all 5'7", 145-ish, whatever it is. I guess my claim to be is that I hung out longer than a lot of other folks, just kind of kept moving. So I was able to keep going. Started in triathlons on a bet. Was down covering something at the Ohio State House in the representatives' rooms. I don't remember what it was. Still photographer had gone and shot for United Press International Columbus Bud Light Triathlon. Came back in that day and said, "Hey, let's do it together next year." I said, "Great, I can't swim." And she goes, "No matter, I can't run." So Sue Agraki and I did the first one the following year. Both got killed in the swim as everybody swam over top of us, you know, not knowing what we were doing. Later on, we looked for another one to do. She found one in Sylvania, Ohio. Turns out that was their first Olympic distance triathlon. August 2021 will be my 37th consecutive. I've done all of them that they've had. Kind of make it a little family reunion of people I know up there. So I've been doing that one, done a lot of others. Sue Agraki has since moved and become very, very accomplished. Well, she already was, but still photographer. She works out of Oklahoma City for the Associated Press. She's covering baseball spring training right now. She's going to Japan for the Olympics, and hopefully for Paris for the Olympics in 2024. So did a whole lot of triathlons, picked up marathons along the way. First ones were okay, and then basically qualified to go to Boston. Did Boston 4 times. So each one has a unique story. The first one I did in 1993. The Lucasville prison, the maximum security prison in Ohio, had a massive riot Easter Sunday. So I spent 6 or 7 straight days down there, 20 hours a day covering that. Came back, got on a plane, went to Boston, ran Boston. I was exhausted when I got to the start line. And I was doing pretty well. Had like maybe a 3:10 split. That was at the halfway mark, and I thought I'm going to explode. So finished in 3:35, I think it was, for my first Boston, which is fairly good. Came back, had to do 1998. 1998 was the 100th running of the Boston Marathon, so I had to do that one. And of course, got a trip to go to the Persian Gulf, cover and land on the aircraft carrier. Did that one. So did that. My training was, I ran 8 miles on Bahrain, and I ran 2 miles on the deck of the aircraft carrier George Washington. And it was fine until they went to launch some helicopters. And I was the only one out there, and they made an announcement, please stay away from the helicopters as the rotors are turning. I went, well, okay, I guess that makes sense, but I didn't guess they had to tell me. But they turned the ship into the wind and picked up speed. I'm going, wait, that's not fair. All of a sudden it's windy up here. So, and running on a steel deck, steel hits back. When you run on it, it hits back. So I got back from that, was able to do the 100th running. 2004, went back to Boston. It was 89 degrees at the race start. I swear, going up Heartbreak Hill, it looked like Antietam battlefield. There were people laying everywhere because no one's used to the heat in April in New England. So I got to the finish. 2005, went back. I thought I'd just finish this off. So I'm running. I'm at the base of Heartbreak Hill. I'm having a great time. I'm saying hi to everybody. And this guy goes, who wants some Zambuca? Who wants some Zambuca? I don't know what it is. I go, sure. And I notice he's got a camera behind him. And I go, okay, great. And I knock it back. It's a Greek drink, I think it is. It's enough to start a helicopter. I mean, I swear this stuff was strong. They just put just a tiny bit in the bottom. So I drank it down, turned around, gave him the thumbs up, and finished the race. Had just a great time. No problems, no issues. What I didn't know was the guy was shooting for a spot on the Jay Leno show. It was a comedy piece he was putting together. And at the end of the piece, the next to last piece was, who wants some Zambuca? And there was me on NBC, and everybody heard about it. So it was kind of funny. I was with CBS. I ended up on the NBC station. Andrea Camburn, who was the anchor at Channel 10, begged the general manager of the NBC in town to let us play it. She played it like 5 times. So it was pretty funny. But anyway, so after that, I've been doing triathlon since 1986. And I've always thought, you know what? Now with everything over, might as well get going, ride across the country. So here we are, training indoors in March for my Trans-America bike ride. So go to YouTube. I have the YouTube channel up and some videos, and I'm getting the other things, the blog and everything else sorted up. And there you can see the rest of the story. See ya.